Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Area Chats. I'm your host, Paul Brogan, and we're about all things in the greater Concord region. We're about the people, the places, and the things that make this an extraordinary place to live, to work, and to play. And today we have someone who feels exactly as I do about the community, the mayor of Concord, Byron Champlin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been a couple of years. I think when you were running for mayor,
Yes.
that I had you on.
So a
and
little
it
bit,
was
a little
great-
bit more than a year.
A little more than a year, but it's great to have you back.
It's my pleasure. I never see you enough.
Oh, well, then we need more snow, so we're both
So
out
while I'm
shoveling and
yeah.
waving back and
Waving
forth.
back and forth across the street.
You have, of course, for those who don't know, an extraordinary career. I mean, you retired in 2018 after 27 years with Lincoln Financial, and one of the things that you did there beyond marketing was to do the philanthropic work that was associated with them. And I know a lot of that involved organizations in the Concord area, too, that you helped give to. And you really became a legend for that, because I worked in nonprofits through some of that time period, AIDS organizations, and they often, people talked with other nonprofits about the great opportunities that Lincoln provided through you to continue their work, to advance their work, and to do other things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've been on the city council. Then you were a councilor at large for a number of years. And then almost a year ago, you became our mayor.
That's correct, and you're very kind. I don't know that I'm a legend, not in a positive way anyway. But it was a great pleasure working. You know, it's funny. You start a job. I started working at that site. One Granite Place when it was Chubb Life America, and then through a transition to ownership by Jefferson Pilot, and then finally Lincoln Financial. And I held many jobs, and it's funny, when you start a job like that, you don't think that you're going to be there almost 3 decades. But the job kept changing. They kept giving me more opportunities, and I think that the favorite thing I did there was exactly what you mentioned, which is my final role in corporate philanthropy, because it was great to be able to interact with some of the great nonprofits in Concord and in greater Concord and New Hampshire, and network with the nonprofit community, with the philanthropic community, and see how well-directed, well-targeted funding could make a significant difference in people's lives, whether it was in cultural institutions like the Capitol Center for the Arts, or whether it was in social service organizations like United Way, or the Boys and Girls Club, to really improve the lives of the people in our Concord community and in our greater New Hampshire community.
Now, you're not originally from New Hampshire.
Oh, that's a dark secret.
It's but you
I
seem like you have been here forever.
I call myself a sub-flatlander. If you ask my grandfather, what he was, he would have said a swamp Yankee. In Rhode Island, that is either pejorative or it means you're part of the elite, and I've never been able to figure out what that means. I grew up in a small village in Rhode Island, about 2,000 people.
Wow.
And my grandfather was one of the founders of the volunteer fire department. He built the first fire truck. He converted a Model A coupe with a rumble seat into the first fire truck, which they still have. And my father succeeded him as fire chief, and eventually retired up here. They were both small business owners. And in fact, my first job was at about 13 years old. I was pumping gas and checking oil in cars and selling people milk and cigarettes and candy and soda pop. But my father and my grandfather really instilled in me a prejudice towards community service. Neither of them were elected officials. They were, as I said, they were small business owners, and they felt that the less you talk about politics in business, the better, which is probably a good policy. But they certainly taught me that if you live in a place that you love, you need to give back.
And that's so important, and you have certainly led by example. And I think that Concord, I've been here 70-ish years, and I think that we've always been a very charitable, giving community, but I think it's even become more so in the last 25 or 30 years. It seems that people have stepped up even more so than, because you had a core group when I was growing up that you could always depend upon. They were always there.
Right.
And they gave, and they usually led the charge with the United Way and things like that.
Yep.
But I think people have more and more understood the value of the satisfaction, sleeping well at night and actually knowing that you're making a difference.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that. I think that there are dynamics of change in the community. I don't know if you're aware that last year, 2023, Concord was the 10th most searched community in the country on Zillow.
Wow.
And you know, we're also in the top 25 best places in the world from which to work remotely. COVID suddenly made a lot of people want to move to a smaller community. And I honestly, I talk to people all the time. We had somebody testifying at City Council on Monday who mentioned that she and her husband had just moved from Peterborough to Concord like 5 or 6 years ago, and they love the city. They moved here to be closer to grandchildren. But there are a lot of people like you who have been here for all of their lives or most of their lives. There also are a lot of new people.
Yes.
And I think what we need to do is to instill in the new people that sense of commitment to public service and to making this a better community. Because what attracted them here, I think, was exactly that. You know, the fact that you can walk down the street, know a shop owner, know a person you run into. I know that when I was retiring from Lincoln Financial, and all of my colleagues from around the country came here to celebrate my career, we were walking down the street and people were just amazed that people would recognize me, or that I would recognize people, and that we would talk to each other, because they were coming from Greensboro, North Carolina, or Hartford, Connecticut, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or Fort Wayne, Indiana, where even though they were doing the same work as I was, they didn't have that interaction with people.
Community connection.
That community connection.
Which is wonderful.
And that speaks to Concord.
It does, because as a child I used to be amazed. My parents would walk down the sidewalk on Main Street and every other person knew them and would talk to them, and I used to wonder, what, are they busybodies in everybody's business, or is that just the way? And my mother always said, no, this is Concord, this is the Concord way.
Yeah.
And you know, it was wonderful, and as I got older and began to experience that myself, it, I think, is one of the reasons that, except for a few forays away from time to time, always made me come back, because I love having that feel. And you can tell when somebody's not from here, because if you smile and say hello, they are not quite sure, why is this person addressing me?
Right.
But usually they'll relax into the moment and say, yes, fine, thank you, and you. And I think that, and I hope that as more and more people come, and because there are so many new opportunities and so many new things available in our community.
Yeah. And so many new cultures in our community. You know, I had the pleasure before Thanksgiving of participating in the Bhutanese community's celebration of Diwali. You know, this is their season of light. It's fascinating to me how many world religions this time of year have some sort of a light festival. And in many ways, Christmas is now a light festival. You know, and there are religious reasons for that, but it's also a cultural thing.
Yes.
Hanukkah is a celebration of light. And there are other faiths that believe that. And you know, Concord has become so rich in that regard, with the various cultures that we have, and I think a genuine spirit. Although we have bumpy roads here and there, a spirit of welcoming, and a spirit of desiring that everybody get a leg up and be successful, and become a really productive part of our community.
Yes, there's very few people that don't wish others well, and you do spot moments of incredible kindness, just, you know, when somebody will stop to help somebody out, or just to help them step down from the curb on Main Street, you know, and things like that. There's a genuine love. Now, when you first moved to Concord, did you instantly fall in love with it?
You know, I did. I did. I use a phrase my mom used to use. I say, I felt like I died and gone to heaven. I grew up in a village, as I said, of a couple thousand people. Concord was larger than that. I had lived in Boston. I had lived in Canada, and for a while. When I got to Concord, I was coming from Franklin, and Franklin is a great community. Was not like I had gone from like Boston to Claremont, working for the New Hampshire union leader, and then to Franklin, working for the union leader. And I was hired by the state legislature to be their press officer, and I moved from Franklin to Concord. I just love this city, you know. And what's funny is, this is a true story. Channel 9 had a commentator at the time, and she had a show on the difficulties of being a single person in New Hampshire. And I had moved to Concord. And everybody else, all these other young professionals in their 30s were talking about how difficult it was being a young professional in New Hampshire. And I'm sitting there saying, no, I love Concord. You know, I mean, you know, it's great for me. You know, better than Boston, you know, as a single young man. So, you know, when I arrived here, I just thought, wow, this city has so much potential. And I really have to say that my predecessor, Mayor Boulay, and his vision, and the city manager's vision with the Main Street project, I talked to more people, and I was very proud to have played a small role in that as a new member of City Council. That Main Street project is the thing that people always talk about, even if they don't know that we did it. People come up to me and say, I love this Main Street, or I moved here because of the Main Street, or I visited Concord and I fell in love with your downtown. That speaks volumes for a community and for the pride that we take in our community. And I should also say Pennacook Village as well. And I think that what we're going to see with the new Riverside Park in Pennacook is, I'm very much hoping that we see more entertainment, more music and whatnot at the pavilion there, and an opportunity, because unlike downtown Concord, we cannot shut down the main drag in Pennacook. Everything is, you know, Boudreaux Square is just too central. But when we have the Riverside Park on Canal Street, then we'll be able to do much more. Opens up
great opportunities there, and I'm sure people will. Because people in Pennacook seem happier, too, with what's going on and the energy that it brings with it.
Right. Well, and the city has made a significant investment in Pennacook, you know, both in terms of the mitigation of the hazardous waste at the old tannery site, which is now affordable housing. I know that Warren Street architects moved there, have beautiful new offices. Concord Hospital has a satellite operation there. Strings and Things is there now. You know, and the little, they have the bones. They have a beautiful downtown village center. And I think that the potential there is enormous. And part of the reason it's so nice is that the city, before my day, did spend millions of dollars and capture millions of dollars of federal and state funds to mitigate the tannery site and to improve Boudreaux Square just the way that they improved the downtown. So I think that Pennacook has nowhere to go but up.
Exactly. I think that's great to hear. Your first year as mayor,
God.
When you look back on the past almost a year, how do you feel about it? Do you feel inroads were made, and do you feel, of course, as a counselor for many years, you understand the office and all of that, and as we mentioned before we went on the air, we are not a mayoral form of government.
We're not a strong mayor.
Right, but you are the face that people see and think of, turn to ask questions or offer suggestions, and you are the person who helps to set the agenda for the meetings where matters are discussed that are vital and important, as well as sending out newsletters, which all of your constituents appreciate, because we feel like we're in the loop. You can just even skim through it and have an idea of what's going on, when it's going on, and then you have your regular meetings at various businesses where people are welcome to come in.
Coffee with the mayor.
Yes, exactly.
Once a month. Not in December. December I'm taking off, but we'll start again in January.
In January, so. But looking back on the year, how do you feel?
I feel very positive. I mean, I have to say that, you know, first of all, there's a significant challenge going from being a city councilor to a mayor. As you know, I learned very quickly, when you're a city councilor, you can kind of sit there and go with the flow. When you're the mayor, you have to be paying attention to everything. You have to be both paying attention to the agenda, and you have to be paying attention to who wants to speak, and you have to be paying attention to you know, just the order of things, and kind of managing the meeting. And even though I've managed many meetings as chairman of various boards and whatnot, it's really different, you know. And of course, you're on Concord TV, and everybody is watching you, and I'm always gratified by how many people are watching us on Concord TV, either live or through the YouTube channel. So there is that adjustment. Also, I think it's important to realize that we had about almost a 50% turnover on city council. There's the mayor and 14 councilors, and we have 6 first-term councilors. And very smart people, very dedicated to Concord, but not people who had previously sat in a public body like this.
Right.
And there are procedures and rules and things like that which can be very intimidating or can be confusing, or that you just have to sit through a lot of meetings before you absorb them, you know. And so this council has not been like the council I served with, which largely were people who had been serving for years and years together, and had worked out their relationships and had worked out, you know, understood the procedures, had relationship with the mayor. So that has been a little bit of a challenge. Learning how to run the meetings, learning the different focus, learning all the new players, and helping people along. And for example, you know, oftentimes when our staff come in and present to us, they use the alphabet soup of acronyms: CDFA, you know, IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act. You know, I mean. You know, and I often stop them and say, please spell out what that is, because people who haven't been sitting around the table don't know. So that's one of them. I'm very proud of the fact that we passed our budget this year unanimously. It was very collaborative with all of the city councilors and I working with the city management. We managed to bring in a budget that was consistent with the cost of living index. Which it was not easy, but it was challenging. It was I should have looked at the number, but it was under 4%, I believe, rate increase. Because I'm very sensitive to the fact that many people in the community are feeling pressure. I mean, people received their tax bills this past week, and as did I, and people have mentioned it to me. But there are some people who say, we get value for that, you know. Our streets are plowed, we have safety, we have police, we have fire. But there are challenges there as well. I mean, we continue to have fewer officers than we need in the police department, and public safety is critical, and I'm absolutely committed to it. We are starting to see challenges recruiting firefighters.
Really?
You know, yes. You know, one of the fire officers told me Monday night as we were leaving city council chambers, he said, when I applied for my job, I think it was 27 years ago, there were 300 applicants. This year, there were 3. The last time we put out for a job, there were 3. And that has to do with the hazards of the job, and that has to do with the public perception of the job, and also the pressures put on by the market. I mean, does a paramedic want to continue, or want to continue being a paramedic, or do they, you know, which is being on call, going out to calls and all this, or do they want to transition to be a registered nurse or something, or go into some other medical, you know? We're seeing, we used to see police officers who would be working for a small town like Hopkinton or Henniker, and they would say, oh, I want to go to work for a larger city, I want to go to work for Concord. Now we're seeing exactly the opposite. Police officers say, I don't want to deal with homelessness, I don't want to deal with drugs, I don't want to deal with, you know, all these other issues that are in a city. I'd much rather be doing doing traffic stops in a small town, you know, and spending more time with my family. So these are some of the challenges that we're facing. And also, you know, I've been trying to focus on economic development. I've been visiting, I have initiated a mayor's business visitation program. We've visited businesses like Boyce Highland, Grapponi Mazda, the North Branch Construction, Northeast Delta Dental. And we've been talking to the leadership of those companies and asking them what's good about being in Concord, what's not good about being in Concord. And what we've heard is that people loved being in Concord, although there are some challenges, and we're trying to address those challenges. We need to attract more businesses. We're making some difficult decisions. That was one of the points that were revolving around the Monitor, the Concord Monitor, the Monitor Way project. That is a piece of property that is zoned industrial. And we just unsealed the minutes to some of those discussions, and what you'll see if you look at those is that right from the very first meeting, the concern of the council was, do we take this industrial land and do we rezone it for commercial and residential? And is that the best thing for us to do? Because commercial residential property or residential properties require more city services than a business, you know, and so there is a trade-off on the amount of property taxes you receive versus the city services, the fire, the police that you have to provide. So these are challenges, but You know, I'm very pleased. I feel very comfortable in the mayor's seat now. I have my good days and I have my bad days, but what really gratifies me, and I'm being completely honest, is the number of people who walk up to me and say, thank you, you're doing a great job, I appreciate it. And I'm not saying that for me, I'm saying it because, you know, there are days when you need a little bit of wind under your wings. And there are days when you don't know that everything is going to go well, or you have to make a tough decision and you're not sure whether you're going to make the right decision. And when the people of the city walk up to you and tell you that they have faith in you, that is huge.
And that's one of the great things about Concord, again, because even though we may have 45,000 people or so, they still feel a connection with you and comfortable enough doing that. You're not surrounded by security and people aren't, oh my God, should I go up and say anything or not? And that's, you've made yourself, as Mayor Boulay did, very accessible to the people, and that human touch makes all the difference because they know you're out there fighting for them, even if everything they might wish they could have, they may not be able to, but it's someone who listens and is genuinely concerned about what happens.
And I think that you owe that. As a mayor, I think that you, as an elected official, I think you owe giving the people your ear. Even if people are going to complain. I mean, I understand that and I respect that. We're in a democracy and that happens. Not everybody's going to like what you do. And I'm not going to agree with everybody, but I try hard to respectfully listen to people's opinions, because I just think that I just think I can do a better job when I fully understand the diversity of people's opinions about what we're doing. As long as we have cordial dialogue. You know, I think that's the key.
Respect, absolutely.
Mutual respect.
And that's what it always, you know, I don't remember growing up very many instances where things got so heated and argumentative and everything. People were able to sit down and understand that just because you feel this way doesn't make you a bad person. It just means this is your opinion.
Unfortunately, we've come to a place, I think social media has contributed to this, where people feel free to dismiss what other people say or believe.
It has no value.
And I think that leads to, that's a very dangerous place to be as a community. You know, we need to look for our commonalities, not for our differences.
Absolutely.
So I hope that as a community we continue to be a place where that's honored and valued.
How do you see, what are some of the high points anticipated during 2025?
Well, I'm very optimistic. Last night, the night before this taping, we held a meeting of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, and Belonging Steering Committee that I formed. There has been some, some criticism about the pace of that process. I very much wanted that to be a deliberate, well thought out process that creates real change where it's needed, and that identifies, what exactly we do need to do. I don't think we should adopt a cookie cutter type of process. We retained a facilitator based in Texas, but with very, very good credentials and lots of experience and a very good team. And last night, that facilitator met remotely with members of the DEI-JB Steering Committee. I'm very hopeful. Some of the members of the committee looked at his agenda, looked at the timeline for the next several months and said, wow, that's aggressive. And I said, well, yes, everybody's been wanting to get to work, so now let's roll up our sleeves. I think that can be very productive for us. We're going to be looking at DEI-JB issues around city committees and commissions, and looking at a variety of issues like training and how we can make the whole system more accessible to as many of our citizens as possible. I'm very optimistic about that. My Economic Development Advisory Committee, which was formed this year, they are meeting. I'm very hopeful that that committee will be able to provide support to our city development department, community development department, so that we can start to hopefully bring in some new businesses to the city. I mean, I'm amazed at the small businesses that are rising, and really, small businesses make up the largest part of business in New Hampshire and in Concord. And one of the jobs of the mayor, working with his Chamber of Commerce, is to cut ribbons at new businesses. I'm amazed at how many ribbon cuttings I'm at. I don't know if you know it, but right now we have 2 We have 2 Thai restaurants in the city. We have 2 Mexican restaurants in the city. We have 3 Mexican restaurants in the city if you count Dos Burritos.
Yes.
You know, we have a number of Asian restaurants. We have a Vietnamese restaurant. We're soon to have 2. We have an Indian restaurant, which I was eating at. I had a business lunch there this morning, this noonday. And we're soon to have a Bhutanese or a Nepalese Indian restaurant on Main Street. So all of this diversity of food options in a city where we've always talked about, well, you know, there aren't enough places to eat. This is an explosion. And we have new businesses coming in. We have gone, Paul, from having 0 art galleries to having 4 art galleries in the city almost in a split second. And one of those galleries was opened by people who have another long-time business in the city. And they invested again in the city. Think about that. Every time somebody opens a business in a community, they're taking a huge chance.
They are.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, the failure rate is profound. And people are continuing to invest in Concord, and I just want to make sure that that continues. And so that's one of the things I'm going to be focusing on in the year to come.
Wonderful. Great. If someone were to approach you and say to you, what would be a reason why I should run for office, you know, run for city council or any of that, what would you tell them in a couple of sentences?
Wow, wow.
All right, a paragraph.
No, it's not that. It's even coming up with an answer. I would say the reason would be to give back to your community. On our level, it's not about power.
No.
It's not about wealth.
No.
It's not about personal aggrandizement, or it shouldn't be. It should be, how can you serve your community?
Exactly.
This is another way that you can serve, like serving on a board, serving on a nonprofit board, serving on a, you know, we have something like 54 volunteer boards in the city. Now, not all of them have openings all the time. Some of them are small, some of them are large, some of them require some expertise. But there are many ways to become engaged with the city, with the community, and to serve. And I think that's the greatest thing about elected office in Concord, is that every one of the 15 people sitting around the city council chamber, I think, have a deep commitment to their community. And so that, to me, that's the biggest reason.
Okay, that sums it up beautifully.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we're just about out of time, unfortunately, but
that's too bad. I always enjoy being with you. Thank you so much.
Well, I can have you back in 2025, and I will
it.
plan to definitely
I'd
do
love it.
that. Meanwhile, we'll wave over our snow piles during the winter
We will,
months.
we will.
But I want to thank you very much for all you're doing for the community, for the inspiration and leadership, and your enthusiasm for all things Concord and surrounding areas, which is wonderful. And I wish you and your family a wonderful holiday season.
Well, thank you. I deeply appreciate the invitation, and I wish you the same.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everyone who watches us and sends emails along to say they enjoy the show. I want to thank Concord TV. I want to especially thank Matt for always being behind the scenes to make the show go so well. And I wish all of you a wonderful holiday season and a 2025 that's filled with much happiness, success, contentment, and love for all of you. Thank you. This is your host, Paul Brogan, saying I'll see you soon.